Okay, welcome to our Zoom call. We are going to talk about your mind gardens. Okay, so this audio by Earl Nightingale, he talks about the human mind, and he says that it's the strangest secret known to man. And it's like, if you've ever seen The Secret, or like, what's that called? Like attraction, the law of attraction. Um, and he talks about like how powerful our thoughts are and our outlook and our mindset. And it, like, for thousands of years, everybody has agreed on this one thing. Everybody disagrees about, religion or this and that, but everybody can agree that your mindset determines your future. And so he kind of compares the human mind to a garden. And like a garden outside, it's going to yield whatever you plant. So if you plant corn, it's going to yield corn. If you plant, I don't know, poison ivy, it's going to yield poison ivy. And so in this business, and in, like, because this business is so much about personal growth and personal development, etc., it's super important to be aware of what we're planting in our garden. And I actually tell my kids this all the time, because they're like, well, I've seen Indiana Jones before, so I can watch other scary movies. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Whatever you watch, it's going to be planted in your garden, and it's going to grow, and you're going to focus on it. So just because you planted one bad thing doesn't mean you can plant more bad things. And so that relates so much to this business and our mindsets and what we're focusing on. And like that coffee cup thing that spills when people bump it, like, whatever we focus on, it's going to grow no matter what. If we have like bitterness or resentment or something about, like, oh, she signed up somebody that I wanted, then you plant that in your garden, and it's going to grow. Like, because your mind, your brain doesn't care what you plant, doesn't care if it's good or bad. It's going to grow whatever you're planting. And so it's just super important to make sure that you're filling it with good things and knowledge and wisdom. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about just personal development that we love and things that we like to plant in our gardens, because it gives us that opportunity that when somebody bumps our coffee cup, or when somebody heads over to our garden, what they're going to see is knowledge and wisdom and patience and goodness and positive pants. Maybe they're on the scarecrow. And so what else am I going to talk about? Just that it's super important to put positive things in your garden, because this business is challenging. People will challenge you. People who have a bad taste in their mouth about this business will have things to say. And if you have good, like, healthy responses already planted in your garden, then that's what you have to offer and what you have to give them. Should I talk about birds right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's this other, like, afterwards I'll list like resources and things that we love to use and learn from. But just from a business perspective, always keep your positive pants on. Always make sure that what you're working on is goodness and knowledge and wisdom and all these things, because whatever you're focusing on, that's what is going to grow. And to have success in this business, you need your positive pants on. You need to be digging in and taking action for personal growth. One thing that Rebekah and I always talk about, because we talk about stuff often, she's kind of my sounding board when I'm stressed or upset about something. And so we talk about birds all the time. There's like a parable in the Bible that talks about the sower and the seed, and, he plants on rocky ground and he plants on shallow ground, and the thorns come and blah, blah, blah. But one thing in the story that happens when he plants seeds is that birds come. Birds come and steal the seeds. And so that's distractions. That's like little cares, little worries. It's somebody else signing up somebody that you were working on. It's, not getting any people showing up to your class when you thought people were coming. And it's really, really important to recognize birds for what they are and let them be, because it's really important to just keep sowing, keep doing what you're doing. Birds are going to come. But if you leave the field to go chase after those birds, oh, Shirley said she's having a hard time getting in. Hang on one second.
I don't see her name pop up yet.
No?
Nope. I'll keep an eye out.
Okay, hang on one second.
One thing I'll just mention while you're doing that is even to look in regards to the garden is look at your team as your garden and how it needs to be watered and sometimes weeded, and to get a good harvest we need to tend to our garden. And so what that looks like in the business sense is, you know, keeping in contact with your downline and just adding value to people's lives, encouraging them, building relationship, and cultivating a community with the people that are on your team. And so the mind garden, the business garden, and yeah, keeping those birds out of the garden.
You need to have lots of gardens, basically. But the thing about the birds is that when you go off to chase the birds, so somebody doesn't show up to your class, somebody says something bad about your business, like if you go to chase those birds, you go to have that confrontation with that person, you go to figure out why they weren't at your class, it's just the way it is. Birds are going to come and eat your seeds. You're going to have no shows. You're going to have like stressful times. You're going to have people that have something to say about what you're doing, but they're just birds. Literally, birds are coming. It always happens. But if you come at it with the perspective of, oh, okay, that's a bird. The bird came, it took its seed. I'm going to keep working on my garden. I'm going to keep focusing on what I'm doing. I'm going to keep planting my plants and sowing my seeds and pouring into myself and pouring into my team. Then you don't have time to go chase those birds, because when you do, you leave the field and you leave what you're building and you leave what you're working on. And I just feel like that literally has centered me so many times in this business. Like, I literally text Rebekah, I don't know, every couple days. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's birds. And then she's like, it's okay. They're just birds. Like, move on, keep going. And so I feel like right out the gate, it's really important for you guys to understand that birds are going to come. It's just the way it is. It's in that parable. So it happens all the time. But what's more important is that you stay in the field and keep doing what you're doing and keep pouring into yourself and your team, and birds are going to come, birds are going to go. It's just the way it is.
And sometimes, you know, we're planting our seeds with people we're prospecting or friends and family we want to have on our team. We're sowing seeds, we're investing into them, and we get sometimes a little anxious because we're like, why are they not moving on this yet? Or why am I not seeing something come together? Well, you know what? When you plant a seed, you don't get a plant right away. It takes time. The seed has to germinate and then it starts to grow. You got to water it. Like, there's a whole process. So they say it takes about 3 months on average to see the results of seeds that you sow. So seeds that you sowed last month, you're going to see the harvest from that. Seeds you plant this week, sometimes you see a harvest fast, but sometimes it takes time. And so that's why we have our why. When the birds come and we don't see a harvest yet, sometimes we can be discouraged. We want to throw in the towel or walk away. And that's why we have our why, to remind us, wait a minute, this is why I'm doing that. I will get there if I keep going. So the key is just don't give up. Just be consistent and keep going, and you will see the harvest from the seeds that you plant. So
good job. Yeah, I love that. Like, it circles back to your why, because it's true. Your why is super important. And I always feel so stupid saying that. Like, your why. But it really matters, because that's what's going to keep you in the field. And Wade and I were even talking about it today, because we like rarely eat lunch alone. So we were like, okay, what's our 5-year plan? What are our goals? Like, just hashing everything out as fast as we could. And we were like, I don't know. What do we want this to look like? Where do we actually want to be in 5 years? And we hadn't talked about it in a long time or written things out. And so I was like, oh geez, like, I know my why is like financial freedom and blah, blah, blah. But the more you can actually hone in on it and make it specific, the more it's like burning a fire inside of you to actually keep you in the field and just shoo the birds away. Whereas if it's like vague, which I had let it become vague, then it's not like it's not worth fighting for as much. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And those moments where I kind of feel discouraged or, think this is taking too long or whatever, I will remember my why and think about all the things that, yes.
Can you tell us your why?
Yeah. Well, the easy one is financial freedom, but I want to be able to invest in different missions or like the Hope for Justice. And what I see the Young Living Foundation do around the world just excites me so much. And I want to be able to go on those mission trips with the service trips with them. And I want to send my family on those trips. And when I think about what that experience is actually going to be like when my family and I get to go on a service trip with Hope for Justice, that's going to just be so life-changing. And so when there's moments of like being discouraged, I will actually imagine what it's going to be like until I can feel it in my belly. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do this. And so several times, just out loud, I'm like, I'm a Royal Crown Diamond. I'm a Royal Crown Diamond. Like, I'm going to do this. And I just like rev myself up. I get excited. And yeah, then there are sometimes things that happen that are discouraging, but I just encourage myself again why I'm doing this and what life is going to be like. They actually say, imagine we should be more afraid of what we might miss out on than afraid of what we might have to do to get there. So the thought of never getting to take a service trip, that sounds just really discouraging to me. And so I don't want to let the fear of conversations hold me back because I might not get to experience that service trip. And so we can't let the fear hold us back. We should be more afraid of what we might miss out on, not getting those dreams, not getting to travel the world. Like, now is the time. I don't want to wait till I'm too old to enjoy these trips and to take my family on these trips. And so I'm just excited and determined. And the amazing thing about this is all the positive changes I've had in my life with this business and the amazing things that are happening in other people's lives. Like, there's just so many good things to share with other people that it just motivates me to keep going. So there we go.
That was awesome.
So Hannah's going to talk about balance between our actions and development.
Am I ever?
Yeah, you are.
I'm so sorry how unprepared I am. Okay, so I was in Vegas at GoPro 2 years ago, and it's just like a generic network marketing event. So there was, I think, 12,000 people there, and it was people from every single company, like Juice Plus and Tupperware and what's that, Unique, like all different things. And so it's super generic training. It's mostly like personal growth. And John Maxwell always talks about the law of the lid, and that as far as you grow personally is as far as your business is going to grow. Because like, even if your business takes off, but your leadership is down here, it will take off for a second, but eventually it will come back down to where your personal growth and your leadership levels are. And the more you can improve your personal growth and your leadership abilities and your wisdom and all that stuff, hey, Shirley, then that raises your lid, which allows your business to go up higher. And so it was Fraser Brooks that was talking about action versus personal growth, because they require both things. Like, some people who like love to learn and blah 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 can just do personal growth nonstop, and they'll just like study and do all the things to better themselves as much as they can, but they get so caught up in personal growth that they don't actually take action on it. And there's some people that are just like ignorance on fire, running as much action as they possibly can, but don't actually have the personal growth to meet those leadership skills. And so their lid is here, and they might get up here for a second, but eventually it's going to lower back to wherever your lid is. And so Fraser Brooks was talking about it as legs. And so I'll just unplug this. Can you hear me now? Okay. So can you see me? You can't even see my legs. So this leg, there's a yoga mat here and a wet towel, I'm sorry, is personal growth. And this leg is action. And so someone who just studies personal growth all the time just walks like this. And they're not going anywhere. And somebody who just takes action all the time just walks like this. And they don't go anywhere either. And so you need to be pouring into yourself and pouring into your leadership abilities and your knowledge and increasing your skills so you can raise your lid. But you need also to be taking that action. And so you need like one step of this, one step of this. And then that's how you move forward. Oh, hello. Towards your goals. Yeah, hon. Yeah, you absolutely can. Go get one. Thank you. Okay, I'll put my headphones back in now that I've been dancing for you. And so he says that like one is just as important as the other. You need to be taking action steps towards your why and towards your goals, but at the same time, you need to be pouring into your leadership abilities and your skills so that you can grow as a leader, so that when you have those teams you've acquired from taking action, your lid is raised high enough that you can keep that and you can sustain that. And action is huge for killing fear. And so if you pour into yourself and whatever, but you're too afraid to take action steps, just doing it and doing it scared is what's going to get you through. Like Rebekah was just saying, I wrote it down, but I botched it. I need you to tell me again, but we need to be more afraid of what we might miss out on than the fear of taking action itself. Because the more you do it scared. Like I have talked and cried so many times because I was so scared, or gotten those like hives all over my face because I was so scared, or just like had to hold on to something because I'm like up on stage talking like this. But taking action kills fear, and it might take a little while. You might have to cry while you're talking like 15 times before you can do it without crying. But slowly and surely it kills that fear, and it raises your lid more and more so that your business can grow and be successful. And so it's so important to make sure that it's action, personal growth, action, personal growth, not just one or not just the other. It's one and then the other, because you need to constantly be raising your lid as your business is growing so that it can sustain itself, if that makes sense. So if you ever feel in like that you're stagnant in your business, or it's not growing for any length of time, I would hugely look into personal growth. They're like, whenever that happens, I'm like, what am I not learning? Like there's something that I need to be learning, and that's why I'm in this space and why I can't get past it. And so I'll always just like listen to as many podcasts as I can, or read the books, or listen to the audio books. It's more like it, to try and figure out how I can better myself and what it is that I need to learn so that I can raise my lid and grow. So yeah, if you ever feel super stuck, it's one of those things, and more often than not, both.
So something that goes right in line with that and with other things we're talking about with overcoming fear and making this action happen is how to grow your comfort zone. So we often hear, life happens outside your comfort zone and all these things, but I'm like, well, how do I know where my comfort zone line is, and how do I get beyond it? So this is what it looks like when you come to the edge of your comfort zone. You feel uncomfortable. You may start to feel a little bit of pressure. You may feel nervous with a situation that's happening. And what I have been learning, and what I'm challenging myself to do, is in those moments of discomfort and pressure and tension, I'm going to take one more step forward, and I'm going to lean into that. And I've realized, it might actually surprise you what happens when you take one more step forward. And when we get in the habit of leaning into the fear, leaning into the pressure, we're actually going to push our comfort zone, our boundary out. And the more we can push it out, the more growth we can experience, the more growth we're going to see. And so when those moments arise of tension and pressure and fear, don't pull back. Learn to take one more step forward, and that might just lead to another step. And what I've realized for myself is when I actually take that step forward, it's not as scary as I thought it was going to be, or it's not as daunting as I thought it was going to be. And then you walk away thinking, yeah, right on, look what I just did, which encourages you and it boosts your confidence for when you face that situation the next time. So let's be working on, let's challenge ourselves. Let's not back away from these fears and these pressures, but let's learn to step into that and lean into the fear and lean into that discomfort and just see what happens. Because it's like we need to stretch a little bit more to be able to hold in more. So if we want more personal development and more growth, we need to expand our containers. And that happens by stepping out and doing something new. So that might be, we're talking to a friend and they say, oh man, I have not been sleeping well. And in your mind, you think, oh, well, you need lavender, or you should try tranquil roller. And the words are right there on the tip of your tongue. And you just say, oh, wow, okay, that's neat. But I challenge you to say, you know what worked for me was this. I'm always listening around me to hear somebody say a challenge or a need that they have in their lives that I know Young Living can meet. And we all have health goals and we all have health challenges. And that's what we should be listening for in the lives of our friends and families. What are their needs and how can Young Living meet that? And they're not all going to be the same. And what our needs are may not be other people's needs. And so it's really important to be a good listener and to ask good questions. And so kind of went in line with our story. Yes, it's important to have our story, and our stories are really important to us. But some of the details, the people we talk to, some of those details aren't going to matter to them. We have to think, what's in it for them? How are they going to benefit from Young Living, or how will Young Living benefit their lives? And just be listening and asking really good questions, because we don't want to recommend sleep rollers and sleep solutions if they need hormone support, or if they need digestive, or if they need NICSHA. So it's really important to be asking good questions and to practice being a good listener. And one thing that Richard Brooks says, and this was huge for me, I realized I was not a good listener. He said, when you're listening to somebody, don't be thinking about your response. Don't be thinking about, oh, that happened to me, or, oh man, I need to mow the lawn later. No, give the person your attention. And he said, you'll actually be surprised that the response will come to you. You don't have to fabricate it or concoct it in your mind ahead of time. And so when it comes to sharing our stories and stepping outside of our boundaries and our comfort zones, to be a good listener and to ask really good questions to the people that are in our lives. And that's one way to add value to people's lives, is by listening to what they actually need and providing solutions for them.
Can I play off of what you just said? Because it made me think of something. It
Yep.
made me think of two things. So we'll see where this goes. Has anybody read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Yeah. It's a super good book. You should read it, Joanna. But basically, okay, I'll just sum the whole book up. Pretend everybody's wearing a billboard that says, make me feel important, make me feel special, say something good to me. And that's literally it. And the way to influence people is literally to make them feel seen, make them feel important. And so in line with what Becca said about being a good listener, Richard Brooke, I circle back to him a ton. He's wise as heck. But he said that, I don't even remember what magazine it was. There was some magazine editor that was flying next to somebody on a flight from New York to LA. And he was actually, it was like, I don't know, he was some type of like therapist or like somebody that studies people. And he was like, I'm going to just dig into the person next to me, ask them as many questions as I can, get to know them as much as I can, and like see how this goes. And so it was like a study that he was doing because he worked for some magazine that had to do with people's brains. I'm botching this for sure. But he sat next to this gentleman and just did nothing but ask him questions like, where are you from? How is your family? How many people do you have in your family? Like just, and playing off of his answers leading into the next question. And he said, not once did this man ask me my name or who I was or where I worked or what my business was, anything. He just continually asked this man questions. Yes, psychology today. And when that gentleman who was like receiving all these questions got off the plane, somebody else asked him, like they had somebody planted at the LA airport, and they were like, well, tell me what you thought of that man that sat next to you. And he was like, honestly, he's the kindest, most interesting man I've ever met. And they were like, well, what's his name? And he's like, I don't know. But because he had invested so much time and just listening to that man pour his heart out, it made that other guy value him and trust him and think that he was a great person. And all he did was be a great listener. And so like what Rebekah was saying about being a good listener, like that is huge and paramount in, yes, being able to know how you can help them, but even just making people feel important, making them feel seen, making them feel special, because that builds trust too. And then when they have a problem or when they need oils, you're the one they're going to come to because you made them feel like $1 million. And that's how you win friends and influence people.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, it made me.
And yes, this is our business, but really this isn't about us. This is about the person sitting beside us on the plane, or the person in line behind us at the grocery store, and the people that are in our sphere of influence. We all have a sphere of influence, and that's whoever is in your life. You have influence in their lives. And this journey, yes, this is our business, and yes, we each have our own journey, but when our paths cross with other people, it then becomes about them. And so it's important to shift our focus from ourselves to the other people. And so when we get yeses to the business and our products, that's so exciting. But when we get a no, we have to also remember that's not about us, and not to be emotionally attached to the answer, to their response. So yeses are amazing and maybes are fun as well, but sometimes we get no, and we have to recognize that's not about us, and that's okay. Just keep going. One thing Richard also mentions, okay, so Hannah and I love Richard Brooke, but imagine a deck of cards and the ace is a yes. Okay, so we have 52 cards. We're going to flip a card. Is it an ace? No. Is it an ace? No. But you have to know, after you get a several no's, you're bound to get a yes soon, because an ace is coming. And so one thing to remember is not to get discouraged when people say no, not right now, or no, I already got something on the go. That's okay. Keep going. We're actually looking for yeses. And so when we get lots of no's, we should be excited because, oh my goodness, a yes is right around the corner. And he says, act like, don't like to not carry the discouragement of 2 or 3 no's, because the next one might be that yes. And to just press into that and keep going, and not to lose our momentum because of discouragement. And so it's a good reminder to just keep going and to not be emotionally attached to what the response might be.
I think that's awesome. Like, don't get attached to the end result because you don't know what it's going to be. Jim Rohn, who I also love like crazy and listen to him a lot, he says that it's all about ratios. And that's kind of like the ace thing. Like, he's like, you know, I can talk to 10 people and maybe get 1. Or if I get really good at it, I can talk to 10 people and get 3. And so he was like, this has nothing to do with how many no's you get. It is how many people you're going to impact and how many people you're going to present this to. He's like, if we're having a competition to see who can get the most people, he's like, I'm going to beat you because you're going to ask 10 and get 1. I'm going to ask 100 and I'm going to get 10. And so it's not even about the no's or whatever. It's just we are here to share our stories. We are here to impact people in a positive way and help them and serve them. Service to many is what leads to greatness. And if we can keep going and not chase those birds and just keep trying to flip through that deck to find that ace, then we will, because it's just a ratio and we just need to keep going through those numbers.
Mm-hmm. And Eric Worre, he wrote the book GoPro. He's just an awesome guy in network marketing. A number he said once that always sticks with me that I remember is, he says, 1 in 25, you're going to find a business builder. So what actually helps grow our team is finding other people to do this business with us. And it's so much fun to find people who want to run with us and build with us. Yes, we want people on our team, on ER, and enjoying the products, but we also want builders to come alongside of us to build with us. And a number Eric said is 1 in 25. And so I keep that in mind. So when you have 50 people on your team, there's a chance you're going to have 2 builders. When you have 100 people, you're going to have 4 builders. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, and you can find more builders. That would be awesome, amazing. But, okay, 1 in 100. But, finding people who want to do this business with us just adds so much value to our journey, because the relationships that we cultivate and the lives that we get to see change together, it's like, one person can carry a load, but 2 people can carry even more. And so when you're working together, you'll lighten the load and you share the joys and the challenges together. And so if you have somebody that you're doing with the business with, that's awesome. I know you already know what I'm talking about, but if you feel like you need still somebody to do this with, just keep looking. You will find that business builder who wants to run with you. So, yes.
Do you feel like we should circle back to our actual points? And
right about now.
We went way off track. I'm sorry.
Well, we're almost done, actually.
Because we made an outline, guys.
Yep. So Hannah's going to talk about where we can find personal development sources.
Okay. I'm sure you guys already do personal development stuff because you're here, and Young Living is like, you're literally on this call. That's personal development. We're doing it right now. Cheers. I'll just share like my favorites with you guys. And then I'll write them down in the chat so you can see them. But I actually love listening to audiobooks versus books. Mainly just because I listen to them while I drive or run or do the dishes. I don't really have time to sit and necessarily read a book, but that's my own priority issues. I'm working on it. But my favorite book for leadership of all time is John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. John Maxwell's a super amazing writer, but what he does in those books, like, cause there's one, it's the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, which I also love. But the leadership one, I literally listen to the audio once every couple of months. But he makes a point about leadership, and then he tells a story about how it's happened and been like played out at some point in history to help drive that point home. And so it's really easy to read. It's really easy to listen to. And it just shows you the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And so it just helps you be a better leader. And it's super good. That one's my absolute favorite. Another one that I love, I don't know if Rebecca's going to talk about it, but I'll just say it's called The Energy Bus by John Gordon. And it's written in novel form. So it's also super easy to read or listen to. And it's literally about a bus driver named Joy. But it's all paralleled with how to be a leader and how to take ownership of your own life, and not let other people drive your bus, because you're the driver of your bus. You can pick up whoever you want. You can kick off whoever you want. And it's just really great too for leadership, for community, and just taking ownership of your own future and your own choices, because we all get to drive our own energy buses, and we get to make sure that it's with positive pants on, and then we can bring other people onto that bus too. So The Energy Bus by John Gordon, I love. And then I feel like I already talked about this one. I'm just going to pull it up. It looks like this. It's on, like, I'm in books, like Apple Books. And it looks like this. It's just called Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn. It's 45 minutes. And see, and there's my John Maxwell book because it's all about audio for me. But he just puts it, like, he's the one that talks about the birds in the garden. And I feel like he just gives a really healthy perspective on how to approach a network marketing business. Because there's lots of like noise in network marketing. There's people with keys to Lamborghinis that they've won, and it's just really kind of gross because it sets these false expectations for people. And I feel like Jim Rohn really actually puts it into perspective and what's a healthy outlook and like viewpoint on how to run your business. It's not like gross like that. So those are 3 of the things that I listen to all the time. I also listen to podcasts by a lady named Jessie Lee Ward. She was a speaker at GoPro. She is not for everybody. I'll just say that she's very loud and she's very annoying, and she like talks super squeaky, super like all the time. Like she spoke at GoPro and people like left because she was so loud. But I love the points that she has to make. She does a podcast every single day. And she's at the top of she's not in Young Living. She's in Prove It, which is a different company. But just as far as leadership and personal development, she's really good at lighting fires under my butt. Personally, not everybody likes her. I do. And then another thing that I love is Richard Bliss Brooks. I'm sorry. We should just like have billboards on that say we love Richard. But he actually has been interviewing every single solitary Young Living diamond for the last couple years. And he has a website. It's called Road to Diamond. And it's literally just interviews with diamonds. He asks them how they did it, how many people they've enrolled, what their teams look like literal steps they've taken to get there. And so I like listening to that too, because it's relatable. It's something that, like, it's not Jessie Lee Ward, who's in a different company. When she talks about ranks, I don't know what she's talking about. But Road to Diamond is something that is relatable to me, so I can grasp it a little easier. And I just love listening to people win. I love listening to stories of people finding success. And I just literally bathe in that like all day long. Because then I feel like it raises my lid. And that's kind of some of the stuff I pour into for personal development all day long. So that when I take my action step, I've already like listened to the podcast and I know what to say because I listened to the audiobook and blah, blah, blah. So those are some of my favorites that I personally enjoy. That's it.
One thing I keep in mind when it comes to investing in ourselves, whether they're audiobooks or events or podcasts, whatever expenses we incur with that is a business write-off. So I subscribe to Audible every month. I think it's $14.99. I get a free audio book. I pick a personal development book. And that's a write-off for my business. When I go to events, those are all write-offs. And as we're building this business and as our income increases, we need more write-offs because the less taxes you're going to pay and the more money you're going to get to keep for yourself and for your family. So I look at, so before Young Living, I hadn't really considered what it meant to invest in myself. But now I recognize that that means growing my character, learning how to be a good networker. And that comes from learning from people who've gone before us and learning from the professionals. So Richard and Eric Warray, and there's so many really great people to learn from. And so whatever you invest in will be a write-off, and you get to grow yourself with the personal development, and then you take steps. So in a nutshell, tonight is about how to grow yourself and then how to step outside your comfort zone to bring that growth to action. And that's when we're going to see the momentum build that we want to see in our business. And that's where we're going to see our business growing. And I know these topics have been really important for me, and I hope that they are valuable for you guys as well. And so I just want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and I hope that this was valuable information for you guys.